Bronte family was a remarkable one. To have so many literary greats under one roof was surely a unique occurrence. Just like with Jane Austen, though, the Bronte sisters couldn't publish under their own names. And they decided to test the literary waters by all publishing together as Currer, Ellis and Acton Bell, which allowed them to at least keep the initials of their own names, Charlotte, Emily and Anne Bronte. The sisters' first joint work was a collection of their poems, but like so many authors' first efforts, it was completely ignored by the reading public. However, when the sisters all attempted their first novel, they each enjoyed spectacular success and stern criticism. Anne's first work, Agnes Grey, was well received, but her second novel, The Tenant of Wildfell Hall, was easily the most scandalous of the Bronte sisters' work, which of course meant it was an enormous bestseller. My heart is too thoroughly dried to be broken in a hurry, and I mean to live as long as I can. Despite Anne's immense popularity at the time, it's been Emily and Charlotte's first novels, Wuthering Heights and Jane Eyre respectively, that have had the most lasting impact as tales of romance. Jane Eyre is the tale of an orphaned girl who grows up in a harsh environment. She eventually works at the mysterious Thornfield Hall, home of Mr. Rochester, who falls for the precocious young Jane. There is no happiness like that of being loved by your fellow creatures, and feeling that your presence is an addition to their comfort. Jane Eyre was such a sensation upon release that Charlotte Bronte was able to reveal her true identity and began to mingle with the London literati set, including William Makepeace Thackeray, who became a friend, and to whom the second edition of Jane Eyre was dedicated. The novel has only grown in stature since then, and has had seemingly endless adaptations. The most well-known sees Joan Fontaine as Jane Eyre and Orson Welles as Mr. Rochester.
Stand out of the way.
I'm sorry I frightened you, Walls.
Apologies won't hurt my ankle. Down, violence! Well, what are you waiting for?
I can't leave until I see you're fit to ride.
A will of your own. Where from?
From Mr. Rochester's house just below.
You know Mr. Rochester?
No, I've never seen him.
You're not a servant at the hall.
I'm the new governess.
Oh. The new governess.
Mr. Rochester is now seen as a classic Byronic hero, a man in the mould of Lord Byron, who was famously judged mad, bad and dangerous to know. Emily Bronte's character of Heathcliff, though, in Wuthering Heights, proved to be an even more prominent expression of Byron. My love for Heathcliff resembles the eternal rocks beneath, a source of little visible delight, but necessary. Nellie, I am Heathcliff. He's always, always in my mind, not as a pleasure any more than I am always a pleasure to myself, but as my own being. Wuthering Heights' central story is the romance between Heathcliff and Catherine Earnshaw, but the novel continues after a 12-year break, where we see how the next generation of characters intertwine with the story of the Wuthering Heights estate. However, this second volume is often omitted from the adaptations, and the focus is kept on Heathcliff and Catherine's stormy romance, most notably in the 1936 version by William Wyler with Merle Oberon and Laurence Olivier.
See which way you came?
What does it matter? Nothing's real down there. Our life is here.
Yes, my lord.
Wuthering Heights would be Emily Bronte's only novel. All of the Bronte children would die remarkably young, but in their short time they bequeathed some of the most beloved romantic literature ever written. At the same time as the Brontes were starting to publish their work, Charles Dickens was becoming the most popular author in the world, and in 1860 he began releasing serial installments of Great Expectations. The novel was a spectacular critical and commercial success and featured some of the most enduring romantic stories in fiction: the unrequited love of Pip for Estella and the tragedy of Miss Havisham. I stole her heart away and put ice in its place. Miss Havisham remains the archetypal left at the altar figure, the tragic love story that ends frozen in time. But the relationship between Pip and Estella has been harder to define. I loved her against reason, against promise, against peace, against hope, against happiness, against all discouragement that could be. The most famous adaptation of Great Expectations is undoubtedly David Lean's 1946 version, which made Jean Simmons an overnight star for her performance as the young Estella.
This is Pip.
So this is Pip, is it? Come in, Pip. Oh, do you wish to see Miss Havisham?
If Miss Havisham wishes to see me...
Ah, but you see she doesn't. Come along, boy.
Dickens' original ending for Pip and Estella had them meeting by happenstance on Piccadilly Circus, after which they part without fanfare. But this was seen as the one disappointment of the story at the time of publication, and so the author chose to rewrite it with a more positive outlook. Pip and Estella now meet at Miss Havisham's Satis house, and a subtle implication is given that the two will remain together. I took her hand in mine, and we went out of the ruined place, and as the morning mists had risen long ago when I first left the forge, so the evening mists were rising now, and in all the broad expanse of tranquil light they showed to me I saw no shadow of another parting from her. Scholars and fans have argued ever since over what is the superior or most honest ending to the tale. In many ways, it depends on just how much of a romantic you are.
I've never ceased to love you, even when there seemed no hope for my love. You're part of my existence, part of myself. Estella, come with me, out into the sunlight. Look at me.
Pip, I'm afraid.
Look at me. We belong to each other. Let's start again. Together.
Leo Tolstoy once wrote a list of works that were most important to him, and Dickens made the cut. In fact, his influence on Tolstoy was listed as enormous. Just over a decade after Great Expectations, Tolstoy began publishing what many people believe is the greatest romance novel ever written, Anna Karenina. Tolstoy also released in serial installments, but his work would be spread out over an astonishing 4 years before completion in the magazine The Russian Messenger. Tolstoy's previous novel, War and Peace, had also taken 4 years before the final version was published, so Russian readers were prepared for the long haul. It begins with one of the most well-remembered opening lines in literary history. Happy families are all alike. Every unhappy family is unhappy in its own way. Anna's family descends into unhappiness following her affair with Count Vronsky, a moment that alters her life forever and drastically changes her place in society. The novel had actually been abandoned by the author midway through its run, as Tolstoy began to embrace philosophical and religious works with great fervour. But he was eventually drawn back to complete Anna Karenina and is thought to have made the character of Levin at least partly autobiographical of the novelist's own beliefs. How strange it was to think that he, who such a short time ago dared not believe in the happiness of her loving him, now felt unhappy because she loved him too much. Anna Karenina has been adapted for the screen over a dozen times. Vivian Leigh played the role opposite Ralph Richardson, and Greta Garbo took on the role twice, once in the silent film Love, which was a loose adaptation of the novel, and then again in 1935 with Frederick March in what is widely considered the greatest adaptation of possibly the greatest novel ever written.
May I help you at all?
I didn't know you were going back to St. Petersburg so soon. Why this change of plan?
Why? To be where you are. You know that. Forgive me, I had it said.
You shouldn't. You shouldn't. You must forget it. You said it.
Nothing of you. I'll never forget anything.